everybody. Welcome back to the Hey Eintracht Frankfurt podcast that we're still using Skype for technical self-created reasons. This is the Bundesliga podcast covering everything in the English language to know about Eintracht Frankfurt, the greatest club in Germany, the greatest club in the modern Bundesliga, potentially the greatest club in Europe, soon to be everybody's newfound favorite club in America. Yes, we are biased. Garret Comet's here in Metro Detroit. Not joined alone, not by myself today, as always. Seems to be my number one right-hand man, formerly in Delaware, now in Virginia, lover of sports teams all around North America. John Ben, how are you this evening?
Doing pretty well. You know, it's a good weekend for D. Adler, and hope we keep it going.
We were originally planning to jump in and have Chris join us, my fellow state of Michigan compatriot. Actually, was chatting with him after workout number 1 this evening to go over agenda. Unfortunately, about 10 minutes after I got off the phone with him, he went a little bit too hard at lifting the weights, and he is going to have to get his shoulder checked out tomorrow for a potential tear. So it's a bitch when you get old. I need to learn this slowly but surely out there. All the best to you, Chris, on there. He knew I was going to be getting some banter. Maybe not the only banter left, because we need to talk about a friendly banter thing that is this Eintracht Frankfurt coming back to the United States for this summer. We teased it a little bit last week. It was officially announced, 2 stops. So we knew about through rumblings, Philadelphia, which is August 2nd, the Philadelphia Union, at the Union's ground, which I believe is in Chester. And then before that, which kind of caught a few of us off guard, a return to where we were last year, Louisville, Kentucky, July 29th at Lynn Family Stadium. Not my favorite USL championship team, but I'm kind of have a biased reason because of the way they beat Detroit City's ass this past Saturday. But John, why don't you kind of fill in a little bit some more on some further details on this US tour news?
Yeah, so the team will be traveling to the US a little bit before that Louisville game, practicing at Lou City's practice facility again. I know last year a lot of people made the trip out to those facilities to see some of the practices out there. They also hosted a practice at the full stadium, Lynn Family Stadium. So we'll see if they do that again in Louisville. The game on July 29th. And then July 30th, they will fly to Philadelphia and be there through, I guess leave on that Sunday. But August 2nd, 5:30 p.m. will be the friendly against the Philadelphia Union. For Eintracht fans, there will be a link sent out for tickets within the designated sections. So if you are, part of the different groups, or know people that are part of the different groups that will get that link, be on the lookout for that. I believe Philly is ready to go out with those. Lou City is not yet. So soon that link will be sent out to Eintracht fans for the away sections.
And additionally, for those that were around last summer for any of the fan tailgating events, we are planning bigger from what the gathering is and what I've been told by Chris as the tease, planning for something bigger and better. More details to come up in May, whether that also may include some giveaways or potentially something related to HEFPOD broadcast wall in the U.S. for the friendly. But like what the tease is, details coming up next month in May. Think bigger and better, which unfortunately for Chris is not his shoulders right now. So speaking of bigger and better, great transition. The Männer back from international break duty on Saturday at the Waldstadion, taking on VfB Stuttgart. The Tippspiel 1:30, the last at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, because the clocks switched back on Sunday. I'm used to us recording on Monday, so I almost said yesterday. For D. Adler, it was a bit of a grind, to say the least. Kind of a bit more one-sided than I think I was expecting it to be, just because I feel like Stuttgart being a little bit difficult. Starting lineup. Carlos Santos back in goal. Rasmus Christensen, Robin Koch, Arthur Teyat, Nathaniel Brown. Tuta, one of the holding midfielders with Hugo Larsson. Einskar Knopf, Mario Götze, Jean Mateo Bahoya, because John will remind me if I say John Michael for one of the 80 million times I said it before. And Hugo Ekitike up front. Quickly called into action, though, was Nemandi Collins 25 minutes in when Einskar Knopf went down with what has been reported, I think, is a minor knee injury. Looks like it's going to be out for the next couple of weeks, hoping to be back in the middle of the month. But plenty of Eintracht Frankfurt chances, and left us frustrated wherever we were watching the matchup until Mario Götze capitalized on a rebound in the 71st minute. The Adler manages to hold on, get 3 points. We'll explain after this why it was such a massive result. But John, going into this, despite it being a 1-0 match, maybe one of our best performances in a long while in league play.
Yeah, for sure. It was pretty much just complete domination from us the entire game. A lot of players were buzzing, and plenty of chances that just kind of missed. I know Götze, similar to how he scored his goal, missed an open net on a rebound not long before that. So, I think we generated, upwards of 4 expected goals in that game, and only came away with 1. Stuttgart was pretty limited. They have been in a pretty rough run of form recently. I don't think they've won in over a month now. So maybe this result was somewhat expected. I still thought they would play us a lot tougher than how that game went. It was a really good, very good, complete performance from Eintracht. And as soon as they took their red card early in the second half, that was pretty much just lights out for Stuttgart. We took the lead. 13 minutes later, it was late for us to get a goal, but Stuttgart never really looked like they had a chance to score at that point.
What was in your opinion, I know Carlos Santos on FOTMob, the Eintracht player of the match, at an 8.3 rating. You got anyone else in the top of your head that was your standout player of the match?
I know his match rating doesn't look great, but I still think Ekitike was amazing that game. The end product wasn't there, which is why his, as a forward, his match rating won't look as good. But he was doing a lot of good things. Maybe sometimes a little bit too selfish, trying to do too much himself. I think that is the one knock on him from this game. But he was still instrumental in the build-up for the Götze goal. So, yeah, for me, he was pretty standout. But Götze, I think he won the man of the match, and I think he deserved that as well.
I would say also, from the other things I'm looking at, John Mateo Bahoya was all buzzing. That left-hand side, Nathaniel Brown and John Mateo Bahoya, is very, very enticing. I am very intrigued on that, especially if you count Hugo Larsson coming in as, the left-sided holding midfielder on there. It's another fresh option on there. I think it shows when Arthur Teyat's back in this lineup also, too, that there's the fullbacks can bomb forward and not be worried about any issues, really, or as many issues as may be the case. How did you feel about Tuta back in the holding mid?
He's fine, I guess, in that spot when you need him, but it's definitely not his best position. He was okay. I would rather see him play as a full-on center back, though, and let one of, De Hoot or Hoyland play in that other midfield spot.
So we got the win. We talked about how, while it was a little bit frustrating perhaps that it was only 1-0, we also were turning out to relish it. Just because of everything else that went on this weekend. A Bundesliga match day weekend that started off Friday with Bayer Leverkusen 3, VfL Bochum 1, Bayern Munich 3, St. Pauli 2, and what actually turned out to be a fun back and forth entertaining matchup. Hoffenheim Augsburg 1-1, Holstein Kiel. I'm going a little bit around the order here, but I'll explain why I am. Holstein Kiel 0, Werder Bremen 3, Wolfsburg 0, Heidenheim 1. In a big result for Frank Schmidt's side, who are trying to survive. Now, the Eintracht Frankfurt win was massive, but what I'm about to mention is all the other results. So on Saturday, RB Leipzig traveled to Borussia Park to take on a Borussia Mönchengladbach side without Tim Kleindienst, who I didn't realize last week was on suspension. Did not matter for the Foles, as Alisson play in the 56th minute gives Borussia Mönchengladbach a 1-0 win over RB Leipzig, sees them in fifth, and me pointing that fact out in 50-plus donor earned me a temporary 1-minute timeout. That's what I get for saying not making jokes about Mönchengladbach in a Discord that's mostly of Köln and occasional Dortmund fans. Then you go to Sunday. Freiburg hosting Union Berlin, a Freiburg team that has been somewhat in form. Jumped out to a lead in the 29th minute. Goals conceded in the 30th and 48th minute. Freiburg 1, Union Berlin 2. And then the Sunday game, which I referred to as the meteor match, Borussia Dortmund taking on Mainz. Borussia Dortmund 3, Mainz 1. I said this in the Discord. I'll say it here. When in the absolute fuck has Eintracht Frankfurt had all of these things happen their way in a weekend?
It's got to have been a while, right? Everything that possibly could have gone right for us went right. Back into third place. Because of Dortmund's 2-goal win, it also gives us a better goal difference than Mainz. 3 points up on Mainz now. 5 points up on fifth place Mönchengladbach, who's up in the European spots for the first time in a little bit. And then you go down Leipzig and Freiburg, 6 points ahead of them. We're sitting in a good spot right now. It's still tight. We could always fall out of top four, but this week was really beneficial for us. It's something we've needed for a while. Before this most recent international break, we had really just dropped a lot and really looked like we could easily fall out of top four. And this makes me feel better. Makes me feel a lot better.
So after match day 27, Holstein Kiel rock bottom, 17 points. VfL Bochum are at 20 points. In some circles that you look online, 20 points because of the 3 points that have been currently awarded to them after the Union Berlin friendly. In other circles, it's 18 points because Union Berlin have appealed that ruling for 3 points. I don't think a decision has been made on that yet, John.
The last I saw, it was awarded to Bochum, but
okay.
So I don't know if Union can still do any more, but I think it's pretty firmly going to be a victory for Bochum there.
But with Bochum, but with the Heidenheim win and the Bochum loss, Bochum are now currently in the second automatic relegation spot with 20 points. Heidenheim are in the promotion relegation spot at 22 points. They would be spec to play Kaiserslautern right now from the Zweite Bundesliga. We might talk about Zweite in later on. St. Pauli in 15th with a 3-point gap on Heidenheim with 25 points. Hoffenheim in 14th with 27 points. Union Berlin with that win now at 30 points. Maybe safe enough. We shall see. Werder Bremen 6 points ahead of them in 12th with 36. VfB Stuttgart are now in 11th with 37. Dortmund in 10th with 38. Also in 38 points is Wolfsburg. That was a huge loss to Heidenheim. Augsburg, 39 points. Maybe, as I've been seeing, maybe the one of the most informed teams in the second half of this Bundesliga season.
Their goal that they gave up this week was the first time they've given up a goal in 6 or 7 games. So, they've just not let anything in recently, and it's given them a chance at Europe.
and they have a big matchup this weekend, which we'll tease it later on. Freiburg and RB Leipzig both at 42 points. Freiburg in seventh, Leipzig in sixth. Mönchengladbach a point ahead of them in fifth. Mainz 45 points in fourth, 2 points ahead of Gladbach. 3 points ahead, the mighty the Adler, Eintracht Frankfurt. God, I feel so good. Bayer Leverkusen in second place with 59 points. Let's briefly talk about what happened today, though, in the DFB Pokal semifinal. Bayer Leverkusen traveling to Dritte Liga side, or former Bundesliga side from a few years ago, Arminia Bielefeld. And for the first time since Union Berlin was in the Dritte Liga, Arminia Bielefeld are going to the DFB Pokal final courtesy of a 2-1 win over Bayer Leverkusen.
It could have been a lot worse, too. Bielefeld was the better side all night. What an amazing game from them. It was so fun to watch, and I'm very happy that they are going to Berlin instead of Leverkusen now. Hopefully Stuttgart pulls off the win against Leipzig tomorrow, or today, if you're listening.
Yeah, so that will decide the DFB Pokal final. Now, when Union Berlin went to the Pokal final and lost, they qualified for Europe. Since then, losing teams in cup finals do not qualify for Europe anymore. That is only based on either cup winners or table positions or coefficients or additional stuff on there too. But an Arminia Bielefeld would need a win to become a European side. Where are they at in the table in the Dritte? Are they near tops?
Last I saw, they were like upper mid table. I can take a look right now.
All right. But it just gives you an idea.
They are fourth. So they're only 1 point behind the promotion playoff spot.
There's a magic about one cup competitions in general, and I'm saying this from a biased perspective. John knows about what I'm about to fucking talk about. Former Eintracht Frankfurt manager Oliver Glasner has led the mighty English Eagles of Crystal Palace Football Club to the FA Cup semi-final, where they will be playing at the end of April. But when you get to Germany in the DFB Pokal, that cup magic becomes even greater, where you often see Saarbrücken a couple of times now, Bielefeld this year.
Even Kaiserslautern getting to the final last year is
it's something it's magical. It is a beautiful thing to witness and to take in. And if you're looking for a gateway to German football, maybe the Pokal is arguably potentially an even better start than the Bundesliga. Unless you want to delve right into Eintracht Frankfurt, then no, you need to check out the Bundesliga or other competitions right now, because our Pokal ended in December. So that's it for right now. As far as we're going to take our brief break on the football talk and then transfer over to another favorite traditional segment of this podcast and our recaps. Hashtag what are we drinking? We'll also include food. John, it's been a little bit. So what you got now? What you had over the weekend?
Right now, got myself a Surfside. Got the lemonade and vodka right now. Almost done with this one, so I got the half and half ready to go once this one's done. But went to Sakura with my mom and brother earlier today, so that was a good time. Always gotta love some hibachi.
Nice, very nice. I wound up. I got myself a remnant of most from. So I've been hitting the Arby's app hard, and so I got an Arby's meal. But then there's a Speedway on the way home, which is currently having 89-cent large big gulp. So my drink here is 95% Diet Dr. Pepper with a little bit of regular Dr. Pepper sprinkled in there. So that hits the gem on there. Shout out to Detroit City Clubhouse. The bar at Detroit City FC HQ. Was there Saturday to host trivia, and while I watched my local play like shit in Louisville, hosting trivia to a nice little financial thing. So, and the Turkey Club was fantastic. So, high shout out to all there. Whatever it is you're eating, whatever it is you're drinking, we say cheers, we say prost. Be ready if you're coming to the U.S. for summer for plenty of food options, because these tailgates are, and these food options around in both of these towns that Eintracht Frankfurt will be in, will not disappoint. So get ready. That's all I'm going to say. And like I said, you may want to hit the workouts hard. Although be mindful, because we don't want to have any more injuries. We already have enough at this podcast. With that being said, this is a great transition time to talk about the next thing that took place this past weekend, the Frauen. Going to Bremen to avenge producer Nathan's honor in their earlier loss at the Bretnabad. And Werder Bremen, while going down 1 via a red card early on in the match, also took the lead off of a set piece, because why not? However, the Adler regrouped, 2 goals in first half stoppage time, followed by another goal by the middle of the second half, and finally finishing off in stoppage time in the second half. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I know it was Anyomi had one, Anyomi and Shiba in the second half. First half,
it was Grava and Bonzer.
So a response from the last match, losing at Freiburg, a response from falling behind, getting the win. Unfortunately, Bayern Munich with a 2-0 win over Bayer Leverkusen. There is still a 6-point gap. There is a more international matchups this week, because there's never enough international matchups right now in women's football. And before the so it is a 6-point lead Bayern Munich has over Eintracht Frankfurt before both of those sides meet up on next weekend, April 12th, I believe is that Saturday, April 12th, the kickoff?
April 12th. Yep, April 12th, 8 a.m. Eastern time in the U.S.
And that will be at the Waldstadion, if I recall correctly. That is going to be. So it's going to be very hard for or how many we got left?
We have here 2, 3, 4 more matches, including that Bayern. So we would need to beat Bayern, and we would need Bayern to slip up in one of their other 3 matches as well, while also beating Köln, Hoffenheim, and Leipzig. It's doable for us to win out. I think Bayern's going to be a really hard game. That's if we lose that one, obviously the title race is over. But if we are able to pull it out, Bayern still has to slip up, which we'll see. They did get dominated by Lyon in Champions League, but they're also just another level of competition compared to the rest of the Frauen Bundesliga sides. So possibility's still there. That's all we can really hope for. Do our job, beat Bayern, and see what we can do.
Yeah. We'll obviously preview the match a little bit deeper next week when we get into it. It is obviously a win, no other result acceptable for the Frauen at this point, unfortunately, based off of some of the prior results recently in the tables. So that is it for Frauen stuff right now, as far as table stuff. But let's go into the Adler rumblings, and this is going to be anything that's come in, news, rumors, things to look out for, either on the Frauen or the Männer side. So, John, I'll kick it over to you to kind of fill in on what we have seen lately.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was fully official or not, but I saw a lot of things that we were signing this 16-year-old Swedish kid, Love Arhov. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the team he plays for in Sweden, but he's a young attacking midfielder. I can't say I've ever watched him. So we'll see. He's only 16, so a lot of time to grow. We saw some rumors about Archer Teat the past couple days, where like Premier League sides were monitoring him. I think if we're able to make Champions League, there's no reason for him to leave. I think he really enjoys playing for us, so I don't see him trying to force a move. But obviously, if you know an offer comes in from a Premier League side that's just you can't refuse, then it is what it is.
Have we made that? Is Teat
Yes.
confirmed, signed now?
He was signed permanently. I don't know if it was during the winter window or right after, but yes, he has been made permanent, as with Christensen.
So big news there as far as that goes. Obviously, I think a couple other players that may have been linked to always in discussions. I think Eintracht Frankfurt, there's been rumblings here and there.
Yeah, I've seen him linked to Tottenham. I've seen him linked to Liverpool. So I would be amazed if he went to Liverpool. Maybe a Tottenham, but I would be surprised if he was sold this summer. I think he's a good player, but he's just so inconsistent. I'm not sure one of those big clubs is really going to make that move unless they're desperate.
Then obviously, the usual suspect names of people being linked: Hugo Ekitike, Hugo Larsson. We have 7 weeks of this season to get done with in Bundesliga, and however the else Europa League goes. So, depending on the success of that, I think that we can see what else is happening silly season. Also, one in particular that's been talked about after some performances, Carlos Santos.
Yeah, we saw him linked to Man United, I believe it was. Yeah. If the rumor was 60 million, love the kid. If that's true, which I can't imagine that rumor is that accurate.
If that's the case, thank you for all of your efforts. We will build a shrine instead of a statue for you, with some of the proceeds of this transfer.
No, I've really liked what Santos has done, stepping in for Trapp. He made some great saves in his first few games in the fall, but was definitely error prone, and I think he's started to fix quite a bit of that, and I hope we're able to keep him and he grows into our future number one. It would just be great.
He brings a certain energy also too. That it's part of it with youthful exuberance potentially, but you can kind of see how much he loves the game. And I think in that Balkan match, just some of that passion he let out in those moments, I think can help a side push through in like making sure they don't fuck up, or to quote the donor term, spill the gumbo. Because you never want to waste good quality gumbo. So it's but I think it's very curious to see like how much. I know Kevin Trapp is back in workouts and everything like that. So I'll be very curious to see like how much we'll be continuing to see Carlos Santos in goal before they make the switch. Whether it's do they make the switch by necessity, or do they make the switch because Kevin Trapp is available? That will be really interesting to see how that goes. So let's get back to what's around the Bundesliga this weekend. So we have Friday, Augsburg, Bayern Munich. Augsburg, we've talked about maybe being one of the most informed sides right now in the Bundesliga, taking on a Bayern Munich team. While they got the result this weekend, their last few matchups in Bundesliga play have not been the easy ones. Lost to Bochum, having a 2-goal lead, a draw at Union Berlin, a match with St. Pauli where St. Pauli might be kicking himself for not capitalizing even more on the chances that they had to get a point in that matchup. So if there is a team that could potentially could potentially give Leverkusen a lifeline, provided their head's not deep in the sand after what happened in the Pokal today. That might be Augsburg.
Yeah, I think Augsburg is in a good position to try to steal something from Bayern. We'll see whether the floodgates open for them. Obviously, their defensive record has been amazing the past month and a half or so. So we'll see what happens against Bayern Munich's attack. It is very lethal. But Augsburg at home against Bayern, yeah, you never know. And it's got that Friday game energy. So
2:30 p.m. Eastern, Friday, April 4th. It'll be hard for me to keep an eye on that because it's opening day here in Detroit. Eat 'em up, Tigers. Bochum, Stuttgart, Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. A Bochum team fighting to get in the promotion relegation spot versus Stuttgart side looking to avoid a complete tailspin. Add that in Bochum's ground. Another one of those fun matchups if you're neutral to take in. 9:30 also in the spots. Heidenheim, Bayer Leverkusen. Another Heidenheim win, and depending on what happens with St. Pauli, potentially sees Heidenheim. Maybe let's see where they're at goal difference. They're not going to catch St. Pauli in goal difference.
Yeah, too far apart in goal difference.
Too far on goal difference, but they might be level on points. So how will Bayer Leverkusen react after this exit? Are they going to mail it in, or are they going to now fully ramp up to try to somehow get in this title race? Freiburg, Dortmund, 9:30. Can Dortmund make it 2 in a row, or is Freiburg gonna really come out swinging after without having seen highlights of this match? Maybe surprise dropping of points, all 3 at home. So, what was your takeaway on Dortmund Mainz from what you saw of it? Was it just like Mainz not having chances and not fully capitalizing, or was it more of the Dortmund we've come to expect over the years when they're on?
I think it's more the latter. Dortmund was on their game. You never really know what Dortmund is going to show up. They play a lot, or this season they have played a lot better at home on the road, and against Mainz they were at home. And yeah, they were just the better side in that game. I wasn't able to catch all the game, but from what I saw, yeah, it was mostly Dortmund just being solid. And I think they've played decently under Kovac. I don't think he's been some disaster of a hiring, but aren't quite getting the results that they've needed or necessarily deserved at some point. So, yeah, I think for them it was played a good match and actually got the result out of it this time.
So, 2 more for 9:30. Holstein Kiel trying to give it any chance to get out of the bottom and potentially make a late run for. Although they are deep in the hole now. They got to travel to Mainz, and this is in years past you'd be like, okay, maybe they can get something, but this is a different Mainz side, whether we want to admit it or not. Truth there. I mean, no. I'm trying to think when's the last time they had Europe? 2010, 2011?
Yeah, it was either Klopp or just after Klopp era for them.
Tuchel, that was when they had Tuchel, I think.
Yeah, Tuchel, that's right. Yeah, it was under Tuchel. So yeah, it's been on quite some time for them.
I think they had Lewis Holt, which is interesting for Holstein Kiel because Lewis Holtby was on that Mainz side amongst some other people on there. I'm trying to think some of them. On there. I remember they were, anyone didn't know, I think they were okay 3-star team in that FIFA, if I recall correctly, around that time frame. 9:30 a.m. sees Leipzig take on Hoffenheim, a Hoffenheim return fixture that saw Hoffenheim win 4-3 in November. What Leipzig side's going to come out after on there? They've had opportunities. I'm not mistaken, looking at their run of form that they have, while they have beaten Dortmund, their last 5, they beat Wolfsburg 1-0, lost at home to Mainz, drew 0-0 with Freiburg, beat Dortmund, and lost to Mönchengladbach. So,
and they have now sacked Marco Rosa. So they have interim coach Schult Love in. We'll see what kind of performance he can bring out of the team against Stuttgart in the Pokal and this weekend against Hoffenheim. So I don't know. They could get a new manager bump, but it could also fall flat in their face. I don't know.
Considering that we saw in December in the Pokal a Leipzig side that played for their manager and beat the absolute shit out of us, is it going to be the opposite effect of that now?
Yeah,
because they liked playing under Marco Rosa, it seemed like.
That's why I think it's possible that firing Rosa won't have the impact they necessarily want this season. I don't think that Rosa had done a good enough job with the squad he had there to deserve to stay in that spot, which is why there were so many talks of him being fired in November before, beating us twice and going on their run of form in December that kept his job. But it was clear that one of the reasons he stayed in that position was the players really liked playing under him. So, yeah, I'm not sure what to expect from them going forward.
We're going to take a brief pause because obviously we know what the tip spiel is going to be this Saturday, but let's go to the Sundays real quick. St. Pauli taking on Borussia Mönchengladbach. Kleindienst back in the lineup. A Gladbach side that now is within punching distance of maybe catching Mainz for fourth, which is really, really I'm trying to think the last time. I think Gladbach was in the Champions League, a few years ago.
Yeah, it was about 17, 18 or 18, 19, something.
Might have been even later than that. It might have been 2021 potentially.
Possibly.
Let me look here because I'm fucking curious now. Not 2021. They finished fourth in 1920. They were in the Champions League in the 2020-2021 campaign. So, and then Union Berlin, Wolfsburg. I think Ralphhausen, that Wolfsburg have the talent and they have had the ability to bag goals, but they've also had the ability to shown that they can sometimes drop the ball. Case in point, losing at home to Heidenheim this past weekend. Now, the main event for biased and deserved reasons. 12:30 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, 11:30 Central, 10:30 Mountain, 9:30 Pacific time. Nice breakfast for y'all on the West Coast. Werder Bremen, Eintracht Frankfurt. 1-0. The first time these two sides met in November. Also a tip spiel, which is pretty dope that the same fixture is twice the Saturday tip spiel. A good win for Eintracht Frankfurt in November, though Bremen definitely made it interesting. Werder Bremen's last 5, 2-1 loss to Holstein Kiel, 1-2 loss to Wolfsburg, a 2-0 win at Bayer Leverkusen, because why the fuck not? 2-4 loss to Borussia Mönchengladbach, and then actually that 2-1 loss was not to Holstein Kiel, that was to Arminia Bielefeld in the DFB Pokal. Why are this is what happens when I look at small icons on FOTMOB. But before the loss to Arminia Bielefeld, they had lost 3 consecutive league matches before that. 3-0 at Bayern, 1-3 to Hoffenheim, 5-0 at Freiburg. So 3-0 win over Holstein Kiel. Goal scoring leaders for them, 2 at 7. Jens Stegen, Marvin Dutch, Marco Gruel at 6. Dutch with 7 assists. Eintracht Frankfurt obviously wins in their last 2 in the Bundesliga. Seem to be kicking a good stride now. It is the eve of the first of the 2 in the quarterfinal of Europa quarterfinals with Tottenham Hotspur. How are you feeling on this? Are you thinking that there's a chance Dino and the lads might have one eye on Thursday, or is it get this done first and then figure out who's in for Thursday?
I think because of how results went this weekend for us in the Bundesliga, it makes the path for Champions League a little more clear that it might be easier through the league. So you might want to focus on that a little bit more. Obviously, everyone in the Eintracht world views Europa League as extremely special, so there's always going to be an eye towards that Thursday match. But I think if we can get a result here, depending on what Gladbach or Mainz or Leipzig do this weekend, we could be in a really, really good spot to stay in top four going forward. So I think there's going to be a lot of importance on getting a result here. Werder Bremen I don't even know what to think about them this season. They had a great stretch near the end of, like November, December, and then February and stuff, they've completely fallen off. And yeah, they beat Leverkusen 2-0. How? And then 3-0 against Kiel, I think, is, a result you somewhat expect from, a side that has the talent that Bremen has, but they've also just dropped a lot of games against other competitors for European places. I mean, losing 4-2 to Gladbach, that's pretty bad. Even though Gladbach
fell behind 3-0 at Hoffenheim earlier in the year and were lucky enough to score 4 to come back and win. Like right. They are a roller coaster team.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like Dortmund this year, where you just don't know exactly what team is going to show up on match day. So
I think one thing you'll know for sure is it's going to be a fun atmosphere at the Weserstadion. I love that I at least remember that ground off the top of my head and didn't fuck that one up. Let me see what their stat line is at home when you look at it. I mean, they've played at home 13 matches. This is a potential, which is wild to say because they have fantastic support. 13 matchups at home this year, 3 wins, 4 draws, 6 losses. 18 scored, 26 allowed, compared to them scoring 25 on their 14 road matches this year.
Hey, there's more ammo for Chris's home field advantage doesn't matter take. So, yeah. Because they have amazing home support.
Yeah. And years past, when you look at the talented rosters they had, 10, 15, 20 years ago with, the last run of it, Ozil, Diego, and even before that, Klose, Burkowski, Frins, Naldo, Tim Visa before he bulked up even more and tried professional wrestling. Per Mertesacker, the BFG. I mean, they've had players that have gravitated with that crowd. And not as many of those these days, but still a difficult environment for any team to go into. However, I don't think it's going to be too difficult for this Eintracht Frankfurt side, who seem to be hell-bent on making sure that they, ignore the Divas calling. So with that being said, when we hit 2:30 p.m. Eastern or a little bit after that on Saturday, what do you see the score line being, and who gets them?
I'll go with a 2-1 victory for Eintracht. I think we should be able to come away with a victory in this game. I'll say Ekitike. I think he was really hungry on this past Saturday. I think he'll be hungry again. I think he'll be able to finish it off. And then I'll give the other goal to Can Uzun. I think we'll see him feature in this game with Ansgar Knauf being out, whether that's from the start or coming off the bench. I have to imagine he'll play a part in this one.
Werder Bremen 1, Eintracht Frankfurt 3. Dutch for Bremen. Ekitike, Bahoya, Larson.
Like it.
And to give a rundown, because while we're going to break down the Europa League first leg next week of Eintracht Frankfurt, Tottenham Hotspur, I want to give note of what our opponents in Europe next week have in the road leading up to it. So to give people a little bit of a rundown, the return from international break for England was not in the top flight Premier League matchups because because they've been really wanting to make sure that the FA Cup gets the spotlight it deserves. And it was quarterfinal matchups in the FA Cup this past weekend, which means that the Premier League resumed with midweek matchups today, tomorrow, Thursday. Tottenham Hotspur play Thursday at Chelsea, who, while they have been struggling, Chelsea are in the Champions League spot, 1 point ahead of a resurgent Manchester City, who unfortunately that resurgence is becoming via of Omar Marmoush, who got the goal for City in there to push them to the FA Cup semifinal. Tottenham Hotspur are currently 14th in the Premier League table, their lowest season in quite a long time. I'm trying to think when's the last time they've been this low, this late in the year. So they play on Thursday, 3:00. London derby, a big London derby for them with Chelsea, arguably their second biggest one of the seat outside of Arsenal. And then 3 days later, they host Southampton 9 a.m. on Sunday. A Southampton side that is absolutely rock bottom, 9 points. Holstein Kiel would even beat them. I gotta knock because Southampton hosts Crystal Palace tomorrow, so I need to not fuck that up too much for other reasons. But two matchups in that. Eintracht Frankfurt just have one in a time frame. Tottenham Hotspur have two, and it will technically be their third. By the time that they play, Eintracht Frankfurt will be their third matchup in 7 days. Advantage the Adler, you think, going into Thursday?
I think so. Just in terms of games played, but like you mentioned, Southampton is all but mathematically relegated if they're not actually mathematically relegated with I think Wolves won today, so they might be now. And
I hope we can do it tomorrow.
But so I think Tottenham will probably have some heavy rotation in that game. We'll see. They're getting healthy, so yeah, they're really low in the Premier League table for where they have been for the past 10, 15 years. But I think that side they're better than their league position suggests with their players coming back now.
And North London on a European night is a atmosphere to take in. It'll be entertaining football. Just all I'm just saying to any in our ultras community that are listening to this that may be going to Northern there, don't be a fucking idiot.
Well, Tottenham fans aren't exactly West Ham fans, so I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, but give plenty of food suggestions for those if anyone's going to Soho and going to be in Soho or in the middle of London, or dare I say even the fine area of Croydon. But yeah, North London I haven't frequented. So I think that is essentially it. Well, obviously next week we'll be talking about hopefully another successful weekend for D. Adler on the Männer side and preview what's coming up ahead for both Männer and Frauen. Let's get into ways we can find us. But John, let's give some shout outs because I think we had one we wanted to give out.
Yeah. So Nathan kindly noted that one of my fellow EFC DC members, Christine Chapeau, just subscribed to the YouTube channel. So be like Christine. She's awesome. Subscribe to the YouTube. We need more subscribers if we want to do some live stuff on there. And just always be sure to listen to the podcast on any platform.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Eintracht Frankfurt on YouTube. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Also, shout out to all of those that have been checking out the Recap the Adler series and that. I took a look at the view count from on there. God damn, y'all are dope. But hit that like and subscribe button. Especially for those that are like seeing that maybe in areas of United States friendlies and are wondering like, oh, what's this buzz about Eintracht Frankfurt? You get to listen to our sometimes educated, sometimes not so educated takes. But in addition to that, you can find us on Twitter at HEF Pod, Blue Sky, HEFpod.bsky.social. Hey Eintracht Frankfurt on Instagram. We also have a Facebook page for those that really love to go that. And if you want to go even more old-fashioned, hey Eintracht Frankfurt at gmail.com. John, where can folks find you at?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at johnben33 or on Blue Sky at what? johnben.bsky.social, I believe.
Nice. Twitter, Instagram, Discord for me. GM Comats, Blue Sky, gmcomats.bsky.social, where you might also find me potentially bantering producer Nathan if the St. Louis Blues 9-game winning streak ends tonight at the hands of my Detroit Red Wings and Chris's Detroit Red Wings. Most likely not going to happen. I don't have it on right now because I got Tigers Mariners.
1-0 Red Wings, 15 minutes left in the game.
We've talked about producer Nathan having a potential hex go into games with his teams.
Ooh. Yeah, that is, yeah, that's tough. That's
for anyone interested in how the game turned out. 10-game winning streak, hex broken. Go Blues, Fórza SGE.
Shout out also to our American listeners, and dare I say those in Toronto and outside Toronto that are big baseball fans. While baseball might not be a great thing for John and his Miami Marlins this year, who somehow reduced their already low payroll from last year, that's some questions on that. I've unfortunately had to concede in our Detroit Tigers season preview for Majors Detroit, my other local outlet, that the Kansas City Royals are my pick to win the Central. And unfortunately, I told Brian and Casey, our fighting Nats, you know how dirty I feel for saying that, so. But anyway, it's been a fun time for sports things for people here. Hope that all continue. We'll talk more about our Eintracht Frankfurt stuff next week. Hopefully some more good results on there. For John in Virginia, for Garrett here in Metro Detroit, thanks for everybody for checking out. What number of episode is this? It's up there, folks. Sure. That might be our next title, episode 1. But yeah, till next time. Thanks for checking us out. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, and tschüss, Fórza SGE.
The rumor was 60 million. Love the kid. If that's true, which I can't imagine that rumor is.
Thank you for all of your efforts. We will build a shrine instead of a statue for you. Hey, Eintracht Frankfurt, la 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 la. Hey, Eintracht Frankfurt, la 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 la.